Hi everyone, my name is Jason Coxall. I'm currently taking a class called Critical Thinking for Nichols College. It's part of my MBA program. During the class, we watched a TED Talks video. Some of you may have seen TED Talks. They're usually between 10 to 18 minutes long, usually have some humor. They try to change your viewpoint or share some sort of information with you and just get you to think a little bit more. One of the assignments we had from this TED Talks was to look at 5 ways to assimilate data, a lot like you process food. Now, that sounds a little strange, but we'll get into that in a little bit more detail. But what we want to do is come up with these 5 ways so that we could fight against indecision as well as data overload. So with food, if you have too many choices, you may not be able to decide what you really want if you go into a food court. If you have too much to eat, how do you feel? You feel gross, you can't make decisions, you're in overload mode, you're done. You're gonna have to take a nap, Thanksgiving dinner has just occurred, right? So with data, it's the same type of thing. You can have too many choices, you can get overwhelmed with just the pure volume of the information. So next up, what I'll do is go through the 5 ways that I've come up with as an adaptation of this video. The first one is size matters. With food, if you're going to give it to a baby, do you give them a full steak? Do you give them corn on the cob? You don't. You have to give them small little portions, otherwise they may choke to death, and they just can't process anything that's too big for them. And same thing for adults. How many people like to go to the buffets? Okay, if you go to the buffet, there's a lot of selection out there, but what if you just focus on individual smaller portions? Get a smaller plate. Sometimes you'll see bigger plates there as well as smaller plates. If you get a smaller plate, you'll have less to work with. You can always go back if you're really, really starving, but start small. Now, when it comes to data, you also have the ability to break things into smaller pieces. If you have a very long, complex process, let's say testing one of our VMAX systems, you don't just start out and say, okay, I'm going to test a VMAX today. You actually use a procedure. You break it into small steps so that you can go through it. And we actually break it into different areas of our business as well, so we have people who specialize. So they're not trying to do the entire test process. They're just trying to focus on individual pieces. Another way that size matters is if you're in a lecture-style class, how many people start nodding off after, say, 30 minutes, 45 minutes? Maybe after 5 minutes, depending on the type of day you're having. But I've had several instructors who said after 45 minutes or so, additional talking will wipe out everything they've done. So a good thing to do is to take a break and be able, even if it's just 5 minutes, be able to take your attention off of the subject matter and come back to it after a break. It really helps you drive home the learning experience. All right, so that was number 1. Number 2 is spice it up. With food, who likes Brussels sprouts? Wow, I'm impressed. I can't stand them. A lot of people don't like them, especially kids.
Gotta fry them.
You've got to fry them. So how can you fry everything? That tastes great. But what if you were to spice it up? Put cheese on it. If you put cheese on things, almost anything will go down. Same thing with broccoli, things like that. How about squash? We must not have a lot of squash lovers. Less hands this time. Brown sugar is a good way to spice that up. Just add some different flavors to it. It makes it a little more appetizing so you actually eat it, especially with kids. You want them to try to clean their plate. Now with data, same idea. You can spice up data. TED Talks, the speakers they have are great. I'm not anywhere near that good, but you can add humor to it. I'll try to do that a little bit in this speech, but if you add humor, you lift people's spirits so that they're more receptive to what's coming in, and it just makes it more memorable. You're more likely to remember something that had humor in it than if it was a very boring, drawn-out speech, news story, whatever it may be, whatever type of data you're trying to take in. And another way to do that is to make an analogy, which is what I'm going to try to do today, is to talk about assimilating data just like you do with food, bringing food into your body. So that was number 2, spice it up. Number 3 is variety. You need to mix it up. You can't have the same thing. Do anyone have the same food every single night? Do you make a casserole and eat it for the rest of the week? That's no fun. Maybe one night you have pizza night. Another night you have taco night. Maybe on a Thursday night, like tonight, you have wild turkey and pretzels. Whatever it is that you're looking to do, but you can't have the same thing all the time. Mix it up. Now, the same thing with data. You can have books, journals. You have video and audio type sources. So don't just focus on one type of data source. Mix that up as well. And also, you want to make sure you get different viewpoints. Anyone a fan of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart? Not too, oh, I'm surprised. It's a little bit on the liberal side, so it goes against everything that Fox News is trying to do. But if you only watch something with one type of a slant to it, you're not getting the full picture. With any story, you're going to have, a lot of people say there's always two sides to every story. I believe there are more like 3 to 5. It all depends on the type of story, how elaborate it is. And we'll see that going on through the court systems. There are some big, high-profile court cases going on right now. So you need to have different viewpoints in order to really understand something. Number 4, condense. Time is very precious. With food, what my wife and I have been doing is having smoothies. You put a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables in together, blend them up. It's really easy to make, really easy to drink, really easy to clean up, and your body at the cellular level is getting all these nutrients in a very easily digestible and ready to go format. If you were to eat all those raw items one at a time, it would just take you forever. Your jaw would start to ache. This is great. Drink it right down. It's ready to go. And if you want at night, you can add something special to it. Maybe a little bit of rum or that wild turkey if you're into that. It's not for me. But maybe an adult version. You still get all the nutrients. When it comes to data, you can look at executive summaries. You might have a 20-page paper you're supposed to read. And of course you're going to read the whole thing. You have to. The time's tight. Read the executive summary. Find out what it's about. If you decide you want to read more, go back for it later on. But at least you've got that bit of it on you understand it. Also, anybody here, a picture's worth 1,000 words? Look at a picture, whether it's an actual photograph, a graph, a chart. You can learn more from looking at, for 10 seconds at a Pareto chart than you can if you read pages and pages of information. Pareto chart will tell you where your issues are, either strong points or bad points. So definitely take a look at pictures. And finally, number 5, trim the fat. Do I have to say it with food? You already know what you're supposed to do. You eat more fruits and vegetables. You eat less chips and chocolate and all that. Allow for a special treat, but don't be a glutton with this sort of thing for food. What I've done is, I used to be the candy distributor at work. I don't do that anymore because I just help myself all day long. So now what I do is I bring 5 cookies to work, and not the big ones from the store, the little ones. So I have 1 per lunch. That's it. I can't have more. If I do, I'm going to run out before the end of the week. Now, with data, you can do a lot of the same. You can trim the fat. What if you were to watch the news for the weather? How exciting is that? You can watch people standing in a snowbank in Needham. You live in Milford or Franklin or out west. Who cares what's going on in Needham? You want to know what's going on in your area. Record the news, skip through the commercials, watch what the snowfall amount is, and move on with your day, your night, whatever it is you want to do. And you can do that with other data sources as well. So in summary, you can treat data a lot like you can food. Remember that size matters. You can spice it up. Variety is important. Condense it so you get back some of your time. And trim the fat. If you do this, you can more easily assimilate data, you can prevent indecision and overload, and just have a better life. Thank you.